Hey there, I just got back from San Diego after an action-packed weekend. I was out there for the No-Till Growers Workshop and it was just an incredible time. I met some amazing people, saw some really cool farms, and everyone who was there I think had a great time and took a lot out of it. So I was really happy I was able to make it out there. And in this video today, this one is with Jared Smith of Jared's Real Food, and if you're not aware who he is mainly is known for lasagna beds, and he also pretty much generates half of his compost that he uses for his farm, and that's really the only thing he uses for fertility. And he is the main inspiration for Jackson and Jesse and myself of No-Till Growers for getting out there and setting up this workshop. There's going to be a lot of content coming out from my California trip on this channel, also at the No-Till Growers YouTube channel, and all of the videos and content from the workshop will also eventually be posted at the No-Till Growers Patreon page, and I'll leave a link down below for that if you want to check it out. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey Jared, I'm finally out here visiting you. I'm pumped. Tell us a little bit about your farm, those of you guys who don't know about Jared's Real Food and what you've been up to here, and a little bit of the background would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm Jared. Been growing out here this is my 9th season out here, and I consider this a holistic farm, a holistic operation. I've always been, the sole focus is on soil health, building fertility. And so all the techniques that we use here, it's all geared towards that. You could kind of say we're beyond organic, or, you know, I don't even really know if there's really one term that really defines the whole farm, because we use a lot of different techniques from kind of all different outlooks. But yeah, we sell only locally to farmers markets. We sell to La Mesa Farmers Market and also to a local one here in Lakeside, and we also run a CSA program. So we're feeding quite a few people now. We got probably 60 to 100 families that are buying from us through the CSA per year, and yeah, each year it just keeps growing, keeps getting bigger.
It's a pretty
and bigger.
big CSA.
Yeah, there's a lot of people involved, and the markets are doing good for us too. So yeah, we're just every year just trying to maybe grow a little bit more, because we do have a new expansion site now. I'm not only growing here, we also have a site about 2 miles down the road from here, and we're also producing a ton of vegetables out there as well now. Okay. And so yeah, every year it's just getting better and better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Talk about this site a little bit. How long have you been here? What kind of acreage is this?
So this site specifically is a 2-acre lot, and where we started the farm was actually across the way there, in between two of the old chicken buildings, and there's about 25 raised beds in there. So between that, the 2-acre lot here, and that, that's what's going on at this site. And we've been growing in this field in particular for probably about 7 years now, because the first few years were just in that alleyway, or at least like the first year, like year and a half. And we just slowly started building this out piece by piece.
So Jared, we're standing in this alleyway between two original chicken houses, right?
That's right.
And this is where the whole farm started. So how long ago was that? Talk about these beds a little bit.
So yeah, this farm was actually started by my grandfather back in the 60s. And back then it was just a full-blown chicken operation. I think he had about 80,000 chickens on this site. And you know, so all these old buildings here were just completely full of chickens, and nothing was ever in this alleyway. It's always just been dirt. But originally when I got into farming, and there's a lot of reasons why I did, but really the main reason that I got into farming was because my grandpa got cancer, and I became very interested in nutrition through that. I was really asking questions like, why are so many people getting cancer nowadays? Why is chronic disease just keep getting worse, more prevalent with everyone? And you know, cancer is a really complicated issue, but for sure one of the factors is proper nutrition and having a good foundation for your body. And so at that time I started studying nutrition. I started a little home garden. I was still living at my parents' house, and I just wanted to grow good food for my family. And I just completely fell in love with growing plants. I mean, watching something grow from a seed into something that nourishes our bodies, it's literally a miracle to see that happen. And to me, I just became just super fascinated with that, and just how important it is how important and how foundational it is to our country, to our society. We really need access to good food. I mean, if we don't have that, then a lot of other stuff goes away. So yeah, while all this was happening, I was talking with my uncle, and he's the one who runs this now. He still runs the egg farm. There's no chickens here anymore. He's just more of a distributor now. But he was willing to work a deal with me to have me start growing in this alleyway. And we literally just came in here and we built 25 raised beds. And
when was that?
This was back in 2011. So, at that time, we really had no idea if people would be that interested in it, if it would really even work. It was, I was working full time during this time, and it was really just like a weekend project that we built this alleyway. So this, something like this is really something that you could see like in someone's backyard too. This is something that anybody could set up in any kind of limited space that they have in their backyard. You could just make a simple raised bed like this and just start growing really good, nutritious food for you and your family. But yeah, so we essentially just filled up a bunch of beds in here, and we spent our first year just growing in here and trying to learn and better our techniques and all that. And every year it just kind of got bigger, and people, I've noticed every year that people are more and more interested in this. People really want to know where their food's coming from. They want to know the farmer. They want to source locally. So yeah, it's been good for us. But initially we had no idea. It was really just more, we just wanted to grow good food and see where it got us, kind of thing.
And I know you do a lot of the fertility stuff yourself. You make a lot of compost here.
Yeah, that's right.
And so how, have you noticed over the years things are just getting better and better, or is there more challenges as the years go on? How's that going over? You said 7 years, so that's quite a bit of time for some of these beds.
Right. Yeah. For us, we see these beds kind of as like a fine wine. Like every year, they get better and better, and more fertile. We had a lot more pest pressure and issues the first few years, and every year it's really gotten better and better. So absolutely, I feel that the methods that we're using to build the soil here are working. We're seeing really good results with that. Okay. Absolutely, yeah.
And so if people are curious in the background here, we got row cover on a lot of stuff because it is February and we're getting some freezes here.
Yeah, it's still freezing at night here. Or, not every night, but the potential is there for the crops to be damaged. So we keep things covered. Also for rabbits and different pests as well.
All right, so what are some of the main field crops that you are usually growing out here?
This time of year, or?
Just in general.
Yeah, in general. So we do a ton of tomatoes, a ton of cucumbers, a ton of leafy greens like lettuce, kale, chard, spinach. We're doing quite a bit of celery now. That's been a pretty popular crop. We do a lot of root crops like carrots, radishes, beets, and we also do potatoes here. All kinds of stuff, different herbs, cilantro, basil, onions, garlic. It's hard to even list everything.
Okay, so big variety.
Huge variety. We're growing probably over 75 different varieties of things. And then, you add in the perennials and the fruit trees, and it's probably even more.
Cool. So I want to get into that in a second. So if you guys, you can see here that there's, hedgerows with perennials mixed in your annual vegetable beds. So you got a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I got interested in agroforestry and kind of more like permaculture techniques. And so, I kind of blended agroforestry with the market garden, and it's basically like an alley crop system, but the annual crops are in the middle of the alleyway. Whereas a lot of times I think a lot of people are doing that more with livestock. They're growing some kind of animal feed in the middle, and they let animals graze. But yeah, that system I think is called more a silvopasture. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing what I do here though, but it's just essentially annual crops instead of raising animals in between the trees.
Cool.
So,
well, this is a beautiful spot here, Jared. I want to
Yeah.
let's go take a look around some other stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
So I love the mix of hedgerows, and I think this is becoming more popular with a few farmers. I've seen more people talking about this.
Yeah.
What's the main reasons here? Is it just like a little bit of a windbreak? Is it just for diversity, more production? Like what's going on with this?
Yeah, it's all those things together. Yeah, so we're trying to have as much diversity as we can. This is really part of our pest control strategy. We're trying to have as many flowers and different herbs as we can that are attracting in the beneficial insects that are going to be going after the insects that are going to be eating our crops, or try to. And so that's part of it. It's also, obviously we get like great fruit out of it once the fruit trees are mature. And yeah, I think just in general it's good to have breaks between the annual crops. It's really, I think, the overall, what I'm trying to do is have a more balanced site and just create a site that works more with nature, that doesn't really need a whole lot of synthetic inputs like pesticides and stuff. If you can create a balanced site where you're attracting in all the predators that are needed, then you know, it really helps a lot in not having to spray poison and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And get a little production out of it too.
And get production out of it
cool.
too.
So
yeah.
what's the, like how often are these spaced out? Is so many beds, so many feet?
Yeah, so I do mine every 50 feet.
Okay.
I know every farm's a little different.
Absolutely.
But that's what I've been doing. So typically, like at the new site, it's a little bit more laid out, but I think there it's about every 10 beds.
Okay.
So every 10 beds is a hedgerow. And yeah, it's also called alley cropping because once these trees get mature and even bigger, they kind of form the wall of the alleyway. So like this is one wall, and then over there you can see there's another hedgerow that'll form the other wall, and then in between here is the alleyway. And so with all the crops in there, we call that alley cropping. But yeah, it's really just a way to really increase diversity on your farm and production as well, and pest resiliency, like all tied together.
All right, so you got some nice big compost piles here. Talk a little about your strategy, and you know, like, is this most of the fertility for your farm and the inputs that you're using for this?
Yeah, so we probably produce about 60 to 90 yards of compost a year, and we use more than that. So we work with another supplier, but essentially what we're doing here is any crop residue that's left over after we harvest, it's either fed to my small flock of chickens, or we take it and we compost it. So it's a way that, you know, there's no waste from this field. Everything is regenerated back into soil, and then we use that as the nutrients to add back into the beds to create fertility and to feed the biology of the soil. So essentially, we're just we're taking the scraps from the field here, and then we mix it with a little bit of chicken manure, a little bit of cow manure, and any kind of like straw, leaves, any kind of browns that we can get, and then we mix it all together, get it nice and damp, and just flip it once a week.
Okay.
And we'll do that for probably about like 3 months or so. I'm not like super dogmatic. I don't have like a set time, but it's like 3 to 4 months.
You clearly have like a front end loader to move this pile?
Yeah,
Okay.
we use a tractor.
Okay.
Otherwise we'd be here all day flipping this thing.
Be a full-time job of moving this once a
It'd
week.
be full-time. So yeah, and then you know, after it starts to look like soil pretty quickly actually. But once it's fully broken down, then we let it sit for maybe a month or two and just kind of break down further.
Okay.
And then then we just add it back to the beds.
Okay.
So,
what other fertility are you guys adding, or is this pretty much it?
So we're basically a compost-based operation.
Awesome.
I only use compost. I use a little bit of fish hydrolysate and seaweed, but that's mostly for the fruit trees. And I do that as a foliar spray, and I kind of soak the soil around the base of the trees. And maybe sometimes if there's time, I'll spray the tomato crops or certain more like high-end crops. But typically, our only fertility is just adding compost after every planting.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
I know a lot of people haven't farmed that way or don't believe that it's possible, but I mean, clearly it is. And I know there's more people using more and more compost.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that think you need like nitrogen fertilizer or some kind of other inputs. But
you're just using the waste, the waste from your farm and some nearby like animal operations to generate this.
That's right, yeah, just local animal operations, plus I have a small flock of chickens. That's where I get the chicken manure.
Okay.
So yeah, I think if you have a good compost, it's balanced. You got some manure in there and plant material. It's been working great for me. I mean, I know chicken manure has tons of good stuff in it. So yeah, I really, it's pretty basic, but that's what's been working for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I know for a lot of you guys watching this, you don't live in Southern California, but I mean, Jared, you can grow some cool stuff here. You got like a mini orchard going on and producing some fruit. Yeah,
definitely. We got a whole assortment of stone fruit here, like different apricots, peaches, plums, nectarines, and we also focus on heirloom apples and also some pomegranates and a little bit of citrus. You can see the citrus is actually covered because of the frost, but everything else is dormant right now. So, we don't have to worry about the frost for that. But yeah, these trees are all about 5 years old or so, and they're really getting to the point where some of them are actually starting to produce, a sellable crop. But you really learn patience when you grow trees. I mean, it takes years for them to really get to a point where they're producing a lot. But yeah, you could also see in here, we have annual beds in between the tree rows, so we're growing just a different assortment of stuff throughout the year in those beds. Right now, we got some salad mix going there, and some arugula, some spinach. This time of year in San Diego, it's really like the leafy green season. We can grow a lot of lettuce, kale, chard, all that kind of stuff. Spinach grows really good this time of year. So you'll see a lot of that around here right now.
I am super impressed with all of the trees and other things you have going on besides annual vegetables, because I know, and you know, that those annual vegetables can yield a lot of money in a year. And just like this little orchard over here, I mean, I don't even want to put a number on it, but if you were just doing salad mix, it would be a bunch of money. But you're thinking long term, and you're having the farm that you want to have. I think that's really honorable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the approach from the beginning for me has been kind of looking at the whole system instead of just focusing on the individual aspects. So the whole design here, I mean, yeah, I probably could have just made these all into annual bed, this whole area into annual beds, and perhaps made more money initially. But yeah, I'm really looking more long term and really just trying to create a balanced site. So, all these trees and like all the flowers around here, I think they're really helping with the production of the vegetables too. Like we were talking about with the pest strategy. And so yeah, I'm kind of glad you see that way. Yeah. It's a little different than most farms, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you said 2 acres, and a good chunk of this is not in just like cash crops.
Yeah, it's not just straight annual beds.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really neat, man. Yeah. And the fact that you're like, oh, we want to expand, and instead of just blowing up this area, you're gonna have another area.
But this is kind of where it all started. This is the original site, and this is where I really experimented and kind of trialed a lot of those techniques. And the new site is kind of the taking of everything that happened here and then applying it there. But yeah, a lot the same stuff. It's the same style. Like the whole thing's alley cropped, and just trying to grow a diversity of crops out there, just like here.
Cool. So one thing that's unique about how you farm is starting your beds with the lasagna style.
Yeah.
Can we go take a look at a bed and maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
So we got a nice looking bed of spinach here. Talk a little bit about like bed width, path width, and then maybe how you build beds.
Yeah, I work with the 4-foot bed. So when I build the beds initially, it's always 4 feet. And then, they kind of break down a little bit and shrink, so maybe a little under 4 feet, but typically that's the range I'm in. And then my pathways, I make those about a foot, or really just wide enough to get a rake in there and be able to rake it out. That's really the width that I'm shooting for with that. And as far as making new beds, I've trialed different stuff out here, but mostly lasagna has been my main way of building beds. And that's really a way we're kind of mimicking nature, like when plants die and they fall down on the ground, and over time they make layers. And so we're essentially kind of replicating that process. We're putting down, usually initially people will use either like cardboard or straw or some kind of leaves as the base layer. And then from there on, you just keep adding organic material. So you'll put in like a layer of compost after that, and then on top of the compost, maybe a layer of straw or more leaves. And really it just depends on your area and like what material you have access to. Like here, for us, it was really easy to get straw. So we used a lot of straw and some leaves from trees around here. But maybe for someone else in a different part of the country, it's another material that would work better.
I know for like in the urban farm, we can get cardboard really easily.
Yeah, so
we're gonna get cardboard. Getting a bunch of straw is not going to happen.
Yeah, so it all depends on your site and your context and what you're trying to do. But
so now that you're building the beds at the new location, how many layers have you found to work for you?
So out there, our standard bed is straw compost.
Okay.
And that works really well. But we've actually experimented further with just doing a thicker layer of straw and a thicker layer of compost, and just having 2 layers. And that has seemed to be working very well too, actually. I don't even know if there's really one that's preferable at this point. I gotta keep trialing it. But all the new beds that we've done that way have had really good results, and it's a little easier to make it that way. It's only two thicker layers.
Okay, and what sort of ground prep was done before that? It just like laying over sod, or?
So it depends on the site. Like here, there's a lot of clay here, so we actually came in with a backhoe, and we cleared out probably like a ½ foot to a foot of the clay soil that was here. And then we came in and we layered in the organic material that we wanted. So the straw, the compost, and we built it up from there. But if you have a site where the soil is already good, you don't have a bunch of clay or drainage issues, you could literally just start right there and just build up off the ground. You wouldn't need to bring in a tractor or do anything like that.
And the weeds aren't really going to push through?
Not yet. Well, if you make it thick enough.
Thick enough, okay.
There's always going to be a little bit of weeds. It's not a 100% thing. But if you were to compare this type of bed making to just going in and like tilling a site and planting into the native soil there, you're going to experience a lot more weeds in a tilled situation than you would in a lasagna bed, because like you said, a lot of them just get buried. And since we don't till, so all those weed seeds that we buried, they just stay buried. They don't come to the surface. So we do see some weeds, mostly windblown, but a lot less than I think other farms probably experience.
Okay, what's going on? Is there some wood chips going on in the pathways, or is that just... A
little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Like from the compost too, there's wood chips in there, so they kind of get out on the paths.
And are you adding compost on every bed flip, or is it just like a once a year kind of thing?
Typically it's every bed flip, but it kind of depends. Like
depends on what's going in, what's coming out.
Yeah, it depends on the crop and what was there before. But typically we do add like a nice little 1-inch layer after every planting. So we feel like we take from the bed and we want to give back to it too. We want to kind of replace what we took, and we're just trying to feed the biology. Every time we add compost, we're giving we're giving food for all the biology to eat. So it's really keeping the fertility of our beds going. All right, so I wanted to show you guys my lettuce lawn here. You can see it's super densely planted. Typically there's about 15 to 17 direct seeded rows in this bed, and once they all grow you know, you can't see the lines anymore. But yeah, we plant them thick, and this is actually our salad mix. So we come in with a quick cut greens harvester, and we harvest this bed in a matter of minutes, super quick. And we take it up front and wash it. And you can see there's a lot of different varieties of lettuce in here. There's probably 5 to 6 different lettuces. It's all romaine, leaf lettuce, and oak leaf lettuce. Red and green varieties within those categories. And so it's already like mixed up. We just wash it, bag it, and people love it as just like a ready-to-go salad.
All right, so coined here, lettuce lawn?
Yeah, lettuce lawn.
All right, so big topic I want to bring up is irrigation and water, because we're in California, and I know it's an issue for sure. Can you talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's definitely an issue here. We definitely have droughts and water shortages here, and there's really not an abundance of water like there is in other parts of the country. So for us, we've always used a drip system, which is at this point the most efficient way to water. So these lines, for instance, they just drip out water every 8 inches, and instead of shooting all over the place, the water just goes directly into the bed. And so there's a lot less waste in that regard.
Are you doing hand watering for direct seeded crops though?
We do a little bit of hand watering, and we also set up sprinklers on the tripod sprinklers. So yeah, we do overhead watering, but it's only for germination and for when plants are really young. And then once the plants are established, it switches over completely to drip.
Okay, can you talk a little bit on like just the water issue in general in California? Like, is it really expensive? Do they like limit how much you use? How does that work?
Yeah, there were limits a few years ago during the drought, and definitely water is a huge expense. You know, for us, actually this time of year, we usually don't have to irrigate at all. We get usually some decent rainfall between December to March and April. And during those months, typically my water bill is essentially nothing. But then in the summertime, it's like the opposite. I gotta really crank the water and water everything, because it really doesn't rain outside of that little window here. So yeah, like if we ever have, if it's a year where there's shortages or droughts, there could be restrictions made on water. Right now, I don't think there is any that I'm aware of. But that's always something that we have to think about in California. And you know, here we're on city, so we're on city water, so we got to be super efficient with our water use.
It's probably really expensive.
Because it costs money, yeah. Our new site, we're on a well. You know, I still have everything set up on drip out there. I'm still trying to be as efficient as possible. I don't want to waste water in general.
Do you choose different crops based on the fact that, you know, water is a premium?
Yeah, like out there, I may grow more of the water-heavy stuff compared to this site, just because of the cost factor.
Sure.
You know, it'll be a little less to do it out there than here. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors to consider with that.
So I could probably spend all day filming all the different stuff you have growing here, but we talked a little bit about your unique onion strategy. So
yeah, right.
Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah. So basically, what I do here at the farm, we sell both green onion and bulb onion, but we actually only plant bulb onion varieties. And our strategy is to plant the onions about 5 to 6 plants per planting. So if you see in the beds here, there's literally just like clusters. Each one of these is a cluster of onion. And once they get to green onion size, they're just about there, maybe a couple more weeks here. I then go in and I thin out every single clump down to just one onion. And we sell all the thinnings as green onion. And we leave the one just to stay and get big and become a bulb onion. So we essentially get 2 harvests off of one planting that way. And it's also kind of cool because we sell a lot of green onion that is actually a red bulb onion. And so, you know, no store is actually selling a red green onion. So it's like really specialty to be able to bring that to the market. People really love it because it has that red onion flavor.
Oh, interesting.
In the green onion size. So it's kind of a cool thing. So yeah, that's kind of how we do it here. And this bed's almost to the point of being able to harvest.
One thing I want to point out, I've talked previously about the diversity, but one thing I noticed is the density of crops. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you're showing off, Jared. Like, look at this celery here. Look at this. Like, you were saying that you
so
plant a little offset.
Yeah, we plant pretty densely, and that's part of the weed control strategy. So yeah, every plant that we plant is offset. So within the rows, there's plants, and then the next row, the plant is offset from the previous row. And so when the plant actually grows, it fills up the gaps that you would normally have if you just did straight lines the whole way. And yeah, once the plant grows, it kind of snuffs out any potential weeds that would germinate in that area. Of course, we still get a little bit of weeds, but in general, I think that's a good strategy to use to try to curtail them.
And bigger yields, of course, too.
Yeah, and more yields, too.
So I know it's very common in market gardening to plant bio-intensively, right? Plant things really close together. But, you know, I'm just looking at this celery here, for example, and it's just so thick. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Do you just get ridiculous yields off these beds?
Yeah, definitely. This bed's getting close, maybe like 3-4 weeks out from harvest, maybe a little more, depending on the weather. But yeah, this bed alone will produce, I don't know how many bundles, but quite a few, like probably over 50 at least.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great example of, you know, if anyone wants to learn how to start growing in your backyard or even flirt with the idea of growing commercially, I mean, you literally can get started with raised beds. I mean, you did, and we're very successful with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was literally, this was just built on my free time on the weekends. And once I was able to actually have crops for sale and I started generating money, I slowly but surely was able to wean my way off of my full-time job. And it took years to do that. But if you're persistent and you have a goal set, it's totally doable for anybody who's trying to get into this, to grow good food for their community.
Well, Jared, you got so much cool stuff going on here, and we're going to be a lot more filming with the event and at your other property, and it'll be a bunch of content coming out of No-Till Growers as well. But how can people follow along online, and like what sort of sales outlets do you have? Yeah,
so you could follow me on Instagram at Jared's Real Food. I have a website, jaredsrealfood.com. I sell every week at the La Mesa Farmers Market, the Barn Florist and Mercantile Store, and those are Friday and Sunday. And we sell directly here on Saturdays from 2:30 to 4, and run a CSA delivery on Mondays, just locally.
Okay, and all the information's on your website?
Yeah, all that's on my website.
Very
too.
cool. I'll leave the link down below for all that stuff.
All right, perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Jared. I am feel very privileged to be here, and thanks for having me out. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. A lot of cool stuff from Jared. So thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We'll see you in the next one.